Good afternoon, everybody. It's March 6, 2024, and I will admit I was wrong. I do understand this does not occur very often. Not that I'm not wrong. It's that I don't – no. It's not that I'm not wrong very often. It's that I don't admit it very often. I will admit I was wrong. Last week on the show, I said that our trade deadline, the NHL trade deadline, was last week. It is not last week. It is Friday. And there have been a bevy of trades that have happened today. Sean Palmer, Seth Kamen's over there. Welcome to the show, everybody. Seth and Sean Sports. And we got, Seth was like, what are we going to talk about today? Well, we got a quarterback rotation. Maybe, right? I mean, we don't know where the circle is going to land and where all the chairs are going to go, but we're going to make our predictions here. We have basically the Buffalo Bills rebuilding their secondary as they released all of them today, or at least the majority of them. Tre'Davious White was released. Jared Pointer was released. Micah Hyde is a free agent. That's 3 out of 4. And that's a big deal. I know you and I talked about Tre'Davious White when he went down with that injury, and I said this is going to cause him to be released. And
you're right. So you can't admit to being wrong without admitting to being right about 3 minutes later.
Well, I'll take that. I mean, look, there's something to be said about that. And so we got some NBA where talk about injuries. The Knicks played with a starting lineup that is defunct. Do they even have a first round? Yeah, Precious Achiuwa is the only first round. No, DiVincenzo was a first round pick too. So 2 first round picks, neither in the top 10, and nobody earning over $16 million.
I feel so bad. I feel so bad for them.
I know, but how often what franchise has a starting lineup with somebody that's under, let's say, the mid-level exemption or close to it? Not many. I mean, even if you go to the Hawks, who they played last night, DeJounte Murray's above it. So, I mean, I think every single team has somebody that's above that. The Knicks are just with Jalen Brunson out now, which I don't know about you, Seth. I saw the injury. That didn't look like a contusion to me.
No, I thought it was much worse than a contusion.
And who knows if it actually is a contusion. It is.
Well, if it was something earth-shattering, I think that would have come out already.
You would hope, but last night they started Achiuwa, Hartenstein, McBride, who has been a revelation. I mean, he's been playing very, very well, but certainly not a starting player on an NBA team, and he played 46 minutes. Josh Hart playing 43 minutes. I mean, Thibodeau in general gets the knock for running his players into the ground.
Yeah, that's par for the course.
Josh Hart has played, I think, 40 minutes or more, like every game in the last month and a half. I remember before the OJ Anunoby trade, he actually posted, "Please help," at some point. So his last game was 43, 45, 47, 40, 42, 42, 44, 30, 42. 36, 39, 37, 42, 38, 43, 39. That's a lot.
That's Hall of Fame numbers.
That's
all pro level numbers.
Right. That's what I'm saying, right? That's what LeBron plays, right? That not even, but that's what Curry plays, right? When you are, as they said on ESPN, you are a Swiss Army knife. Swiss Army knives don't play that much, or they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be playing
typically 15 to 18 minutes a game.
Right. Josh Hart should be playing like 20 to 25 minutes, like maybe even more than that. But this 43 minutes. He goes 5 for 12, 3 for 7 from 3, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 14 points. I mean, it's a decent game, but he can't be your number one, and he certainly can't be your number 2. And last night, I'm not sure if he was 1 or 2. It's either him or DiVincenzo. And that we talk about how jumbled the Western Conference is. The Eastern Conference, you have the Celtics, who are far above everybody else, even though they lost last night. They're 48-13. The Bucks are 41-21, 7.5 out. And the Cavs are 40-21, 8 out. Okay. I think now we have a divide because Orlando has jumped to the 4 spot.
To quote Mongo, how in the wide world of sports is Orlando the 4?
That was not Mongo.
But that was from Blazing Saddles.
Yes, but not Mongo. But okay.
Mongo's pawn in Game of Life.
Yes. What in the wild world of sports is going on here? So Orlando is 4 with 12.5 times. Tied with the Knicks. The Heat are 13. They've jumped into a non-play-in game. Philadelphia is 13 out. The Pacers are 14 out. And the Bulls are 19 out. I mean, between the 4 seed and the 9 seed, it's 6.5 games. Now, granted, there aren't a lot of games left. So you have that. There's probably 20 games left. So making up 6.5 is going to be rather difficult if you're the Bulls. But it's 1.5 between the 4 spot and the 8 spot. True. And none of them are playing well.
No, the Magic are playing well.
The Magic and the Heat are 8-2 in their last 10. But I mean, their differential is 1.7 and 0.9 points. Like, it's not. They're a 500 team, and they're
but the thing is, for Orlando, who's been irrelevant for ever,
a decade.
Since the Dwight Howard team that went to the finals, which I think was 2009.
Yeah, so 15 years.
I mean, you have young talent with Banchero and Wagner and Suggs. I mean, they're very, very long. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, how much Orlando Magic have you watched?
I have actually watched zero Orlando. Look, I've watched a lot of NBA in the last couple of weeks. These are teams that I have watched watched on TV in a live game in the last, let's say, 3 weeks. I have watched the Celtics. I have seen the Bucks. I've seen the Cavs. I've seen the Knicks. Seen the 76ers. Seen the Pacers. Seen the Hawks. Seen the Nets. Seen the Raptors. Watched the Raptors last night. Have not seen the Hornets, the Wizards, or the Pistons, but I don't think I'm missing much. I have not seen the Bulls, and I have not seen the Heat or the Magic. I've seen the Wolves, the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Pelicans, the Suns, not the Kings. Seen the Mavs, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Jazz, the Rockets, and the Spurs. So I have
This is why you need to go on more dates.
I understand that, but I have not seen 5 or 6 teams over the last 3 weeks. So I have not seen the Magic because the Magic have not played on national television.
No.
I have not seen the Heat because the Heat have not played on national television. So, I mean, and they haven't played the Knicks. So I haven't seen these teams. But I got to tell you, I saw the Bucks the other night come back and win their game over the Thunder. Was it the Thunder that they were? No, the Clippers. Sorry. They were playing the Clippers without Giannis. And they look good. I mean, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this. So Dame being Dame, right? He puts up 40 points. Middleton was out. It has nothing to do with Dame being Dame. It has everything to do with Bobby Portis, nobody. I mean, how many teams was Bobby Portis on before he found his, I will say, his swag in Milwaukee? I mean, he's fun to watch. And then they got the guy AJ Griffin. What was it? We missed it again yesterday. Well, I said it 3 different ways yesterday. It's not AJ Griffin, right?
It is
AJ Green.
AJ Green.
AJ Green out of Northern Iowa seemed like he couldn't miss a 3-point shot. Pat Bev is back to being Pat Bev, the defensive stopper. And Brook Lopez was on the bench for most of the game, and they still came back to win by 12. which again shows you a couple of things. First of all, the Clippers are a good team, but not a great team.
Were the Clippers fully playing?
They didn't have Russell Westbrook, who's out
Westbrook's out with a broken hand.
But other than that, they had everybody. And
I can never tell because they have so much load management, so I never really know.
Yeah, but they don't have size. The team just doesn't have size, no matter what. They have Zubac, and that's it. They have Dwight Powell, perhaps, but he's not. He's a 6'8" guy. But so I'm watching I'm watching this game, and I'm thinking, have there been in our lifetime? I remember watching Brook Lopez play with the Nets. And I remember watching Bobby Portis play with the Knicks, right? I remember these two guys playing. Are there two guys that have changed the way that they play over the course of a decade more than these two guys? Like, I'm not sure there is.
I can't answer on Portis. I just can't. Brook Lopez has completely changed his game.
He was an offensive guy, right? He played minimal defense. I mean, he played decent defense, but minimal. And now he's a defensive guy that plays minimal offense.
Well, he's also he's a potential defensive player of the year. Although I don't know about this year, but last year,
yes,
he was. And he's become a 3-point threat, which was never part of his repertoire. Portis, I honest to God don't know enough about to answer the question.
So the only guy that I recall that has changed his game this much is Jason Kidd. Like, Jason Kidd came into the league as an awful shooter. Shooter.
Yes.
I mean, he was a magician with the ball. So I had him on my fantasy team way back when, and he destroyed my field goal percentage because he was that bad of a shooter. But he won me assists and he won me rebounds because I think he probably shot 30 to 35% his first couple of years. And then towards the end of his career, all he was a spot-up 3-point shooter. I don't think I've seen another guy besides him and Lopez change the way that they have played and changed the type of player that they are. Do you remember?
I mean, the one that comes to mind, and it's before we were born, is Earl Monroe. Because Earl Monroe was a hardcore scorer.
Yep.
Dynamic, this, that, the other. And then he came to the Knicks and kind of, helped them win the 73 title by kind of merging into their team-oriented offense.
Sure.
I think there are others. I'm trying to remember.
So
more the guys who are the one-dimensional players who score 30 points on a team that goes 20-62, and then they get traded to a team where they have to kind of acclimate in.
See, I understand you grow into a role and you become better, right? Where you are a part player and then you become a bigger player, right? So Dante DiVincenzo was a part player in the last couple of years, right? And he has become a bigger player with the Knicks. But that is in part because he gets more playing time, more than anything else, right? I was thinking about somebody that legitimately has changed the way that they play, right? So Jason Kidd, I just looked this up. His first year, he averaged, I was pretty close. He had a 38.5% field goal percentage. So he did that in 1994 when he was 21. At 36, he had a 42% field goal percentage. Okay, that's a good amount different. At 21, he shot 27% from three. And at 36, he shot 42% from three. That is a big difference, 15% difference in three-pointers. And even more so, he took 5.5, and as a 21-year-old, he took 3. He just changed the way he played, right? He was just a different player. I don't know anybody that has – and Monroe is definitely one of those guys, right? He went into a secondary role. I can go with that. I could totally go with that.
I mean, because like when you're talking about someone who, like a Tiny Archibald, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
Tiny Archibald was the only player in the NBA history to lead the league in points and assists in the same
Right.
season. But he played for the Kings, and they were like 20 and 60.
Sure.
I don't think his game changed when he went to the Celtics. I think he just kind of merged into a more team-oriented player because he had 6 Hall of Famers on the roster.
That's Russell Westbrook, right? Russell Westbrook didn't become a different player with the Clippers. He just became a different player with the Clippers because he didn't have to do a triple-double every 2 seconds, nor could he. And when you play with better players, you don't have to be that guy all the time. Kid didn't change to merge in with the team. Kid stopped being the guy he was when he was 25. Brook Lopez stopped being the guy that he was when he was 25. He wasn't the defensive stopper. He was an offensive player at 25. Now he is absolutely a defensive stopper. So, yeah. So in my last 3 weeks of watching all of these teams, Celtics look really good, Seth. I don't know what happened last night. I did not watch last night, but they blew out.
Dean Wade scored 19 points in the fourth quarter.
So not Dwayne Wade. Not Dwayne Wade. Dean Wade.
No, Dwayne Wade has been retired for a long time. Dean Wade.
Yeah. Well, and I guess everybody has their day, right? And that's their day. But when you can blow out the Warriors by 45 on Sunday to the point that Steve Kerr didn't play a starter in the fourth quarter, you're pretty damn good. I mean, their differential is 11 points, which, to give you an idea, the next highest is Oklahoma City at 7. I mean, they are blowing people away. They're 29-3 at home. 29-3. I would hate to be the Celtic fan that actually went to the loss, right? It's like, oh, I brought my kid to the Celtics game last night. They lost. Wait, they've only lost 3 games at home. You happen to be at one of them? Man, good for that. I mean, so they are by far and away. And Mark Rubin, if you're listening, you are hearing me say this. They are by far and away the best team in the East. Not even close. And anything less than a finals appearance is an utter and complete disappointment for that team.
It's a debacle. Yeah.
And it may cost the coach's job.
It would be something to behold to see a guy who goes 65-17 get fired. But
what did Mark Jackson go before he got fired for Steve Kerr?
46-36?
It wasn't anything more than that.
No. I'll take a look.
I mean, you can make the case of Johnny Keane getting fired, Yogi Berra getting fired for Johnny Keane.
Yeah, Johnny Keane in 1964. Wow, we went there. The trade of coaches, yeah.
Well, it wasn't a trade of coaches.
Well, the Yankees knew they were firing Yogi Berra no matter what.
Right. But I'm saying there has been a trade of managers in baseball, by the way. Did you know that? Yeah.
If you name one, I'll name the other. I just don't remember who it is.
It was in the 50s. Hold on. Here, it's managers that were traded for each other. Detroit and Cleveland traded Jimmy Dykes for Joe Gordon in 1960. But okay, so best managers fired. Well, who do you think is
Jackson was 51-31.
Okay, so definitely not to that point. definitely not at that point. But who are those guys that I mean, Buck Showalter gets fired, right?
He did, and which I disagreed with, but Joe Torre came in and won 4 out of 5 titles.
Right, but I'm saying you get to the cusp, right? And you can't get over that
G-Mock.
Yep. The guys that can't just get over the hill, get over the top, right? Who am I thinking? Tampa Bay, Tony Dungy.
He won a title.
No, he won a title with Indy. He didn't win a title with Tampa
Right,
Bay.
he won a title with it. Yes, he won a title with
So
it.
they fired him after he made the championship game and brought in Gruden.
Was it the same year that they went to the title game?
I think so. I think that was the year they fired him and brought in Gruden. Because the next year the Gruden played Bill Callahan, right? In the Super Bowl. It was Tampa Bay versus the Raiders the next year.
Yeah, I just don't remember if they were in the AFC title game the year before.
I think they were. I think my point is there have been coaches that have been fired that just can't get over that lip. And maybe Joe Mazzola.
Right, but Mazzola's been their coach for 2 years.
And he's a first-time coach to begin with. We've seen that too. Should I mention Adrian Griffin?
Probably not. Okay, Tony Dungy lost the 2 years before Tampa. Those last 2 years in Tampa, he lost in the wild card game to the Eagles.
Okay, so he didn't get to that point.
The only time he went to the NFC title game was against the Rams, which was the greatest show on turf.
Okay, so coaches that were fired shortly after not winning a championship, it's after losing a championship, right? We're looking after losing a championship, not after winning. Fired after.
Jimmy Johnson.
No, he won after winning.
No, he left. I thought, was it the year after he won? Or was it the year after they lost to San Francisco?
I thought it was. I don't know. I thought it was after they won. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, you're right. It would be very, very difficult to fire him. But I could see, look, you lose right now, they would play the play-in winner. They would play the 8 seed.
Okay. There's no 8 seed. There's no 8 seed that scares.
Oh, yes, there is.
If Embiid, you're talking about if Embiid.
If Embiid comes back.
Because certainly Indiana, Chicago, and Atlanta don't scare them.
Nope. They shouldn't scare anybody. I mean, especially a Trae Youngless Atlanta. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not sure Atlanta stays even in the 10 seed. Your Brooklyn Nets may make the play-in. I mean, you got nothing to lose anyway.
We're swapping our picks, so
yeah, they're not yours. It would be pretty cool if your Nets actually had a better pick than Houston, and that way the swap wouldn't happen. But the fact is, you're right. Of those teams, the only one that does scare anybody is Philadelphia with Embiid, right? And who knows if he's coming back, and who knows the conditioning on him. But
look, nobody wants to play the Heat. You know, I don't know where you. I know your feelings on this year's Heat team. You just don't want to play them.
I get it because they have the best coach in the league.
Yeah, and they do. They have talent. They have They got two. You know, they got Butler. They got Adebayo. They got Rozier. They have talent.
Actually, I love that matchup playing the Cavaliers. Like I want to watch that. The Cavs versus the Heat. If you're a Knicks fan, you're looking at Orlando going, okay, like that's a matchup I like. I like that a lot better than playing the Cavs, and I like it a lot better than playing the Heat. Like that's probably.
Well, the question is, with all the injuries the Knicks have, Randall, Brunson, Anunoby, Robinson. I mean, how far do they fall?
Depends on when they come back, right? I mean,
well, nobody knows anything about Brunson at this point.
Well, nobody knows anything about Randall either. Like Randall's we're going to reevaluate, and that's all we've learned. And Anunoby was supposed to come back in next week, and we'll see if that happens. I mean, reports are that Robinson, Randall, and Anunoby are all traveling with the team. Now, what does that mean? Not much. But it's something. They're not sitting at home, so maybe they're getting in some workout. I have no idea. But how much could they fall? Look, they could fall into the play-in. They're only a half a game out of the play-in.
Agreed.
I mean, the good part is they don't have a terribly hard schedule.
Yeah, but if your top 4 of your top 5 players aren't playing, it doesn't really matter. It may not matter.
That's right. That's right. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They are 20-12 at home and 16-14 on the road. So not really a plus or a minus.
Yeah, I mean, nobody has. Look, 3 weeks ago, the Knicks were probably the favorite to go to the conference finals, or they were at least the trendy pick to go to the conference finals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they would be. I think based on where they are now, again, assuming some of these guys are coming back, they would be very lucky to survive the play-in.
Well, so looking at their next 2 weeks on the schedule, they play Orlando Friday. I mean, that's a pretty big game, playing Orlando Friday. They have back-to-back Sunday, Tuesday against Philly. Again, pretty important games. And the fact that Embiid definitely will not be back for those, and Maxey now has a concussion, who knows whether he's going to be playing. This is an advantage, right? These are make or break wins. These are double dip wins. Your team that is above you or right below you is losing while you're winning. So it's a double win. Then you play Portland. So that's your next week. So if they could go 3-1 in the next week, especially if they beat the 3 teams in their division, they'll make up 2 or 3 games. And again, looking at what they did against the Hawks last night, I have no confidence in any of that. But that's where it is. After that, it gets really tough. They go West Coast. So they play at Portland. Okay, not a hard win, not a hard game. At Sacramento, at Golden State, at Denver. I will tell you right now, with the team that they fielded last night, that is 3 losses.
They're not winning any of those. I agree.
And then they come home to Brooklyn, Detroit, and then away at Toronto and San Antonio, which, again, are winnable games.
Yes.
So the next 2 weeks, kind of important, and see if they get Anunoby back or see if they get Randall back. And the unfortunate part is, as you said, shuffle back a couple of weeks ago, Seth, this team could have gone to the finals.
Or at least would be a fascinating matchup with Milwaukee.
Oh, no, I think they could have gone to – I think they were better than Milwaukee and posed – if there is a threat to the Celtics, they would have been a good threat. I'm not saying they would have been favored. No way.
I think them and Milwaukee's because Milwaukee's also now playing better.
Sure.
And assuming that Middleton comes back, and Middleton's been so injury prone the last couple of years. Who the heck knows?
Yeah.
I mean, they're a dangerous team.
They are.
And Giannis is still Giannis. You put Beverly on Brunson. Look, you put Anunoby on Lillard. It's a fun matchup to watch.
I'd be interested in seeing Anunoby on Lillard because you got a 6'10" guy on a 6'2" guy.
Anunoby's not 6'10".
Yeah, 6'9", 6'10".
Is he that big? I thought he
was
6'7". My bad.
He was playing the 4. He's tall.
He's 6'7". Looking at ESPN's roster, he's 6'7".
Okay.
He guards.
He guards everybody. He's one of the few guys that can guard everybody. That's the reason why he's great. So let's say he's 6. He's not Josh Hart.
I forget. Has he signed the extension yet?
No. But I can't imagine remember, CAA client.
No. I'm assuming he's not going anywhere. No, look, they had between Anunoby and Hart and DiVincenzo, they have a lot of moving, kind of to quote you, the Swiss Army knife guys.
Yeah. But none of those guys are number 1, and that's the problem. They need.
No, the question is Brunson a 1?
They need They need Randall. They need Brunson. Other than that, they're not going anywhere. They're just not. That team does not have a number one other than those. Okay, so you know what? You were asking where we were going with this show. We just went a half hour talking about the NBA. We're doing pretty well.
We didn't even talk about the West. We just talked about the East.
That's true. We have not talked about the West. And we have not talked about Chet Holmgren. Seth, I don't know if you've watched any of Chet this entire year.
Very little, because I've seen very little.
He seriously may be the most underrated player in basketball right now.
It's his first year. I don't know. I think everyone thinks he's a really good player that's going to be second to Victor in Rookie of the Year. So how underrated do you think he is?
So in every other year, besides take out LeBron, in the last 30 years, 20 years, he'd be the Rookie of the Year every year.
Yes. And you mean he would have
more
beaten
than
Michael Carter
Luka,
Williams?
more than Luka, more than anybody. He would be the Rookie of the Year. His stats are, I mean, so he's throwing down 17 points a game.
He's 17, 8, and 3.
17, 8, and 3. Yeah, 17, 8, and 3. And but more importantly, he's shooting 55% from the field and 40% from 3.
That's nuts.
This guy's nuts. I mean, if you think, and 80% from the line. I mean, 79, but 80% from the line. So he's shooting 40% from 3, 80% from the line, and 54% from the field in 30 minutes a game. And the best part about this Thunder team, Seth, they're not done. They have like every draft pick from now until the end of time.
Yeah.
They have a big three in Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and Shea, all of which are going to be on semi-maxes, the quasi-max, right? All of which are going to be on those. They have the ability to trade whatever they want, whenever they want, and however they want. The question is, when do they make that push, and who is that guy? If you've watched them at all this year, I see in the offseason Josh Giddey is going to get traded. I cannot see how they keep him. They had Nurkic the other night. Right? By the way, Nurkic had like 31 rebounds the other night against this team.
Yeah, they need big.
And, well, he had like 18 in the first quarter. Like, Nurkic was just like, anything is mine. This is mine, and this is mine, and this is mine. And so because Josh Giddey can't shoot, he's 6'8" and can't shoot. He's averaging 33, I think it's 33, around 30% from 3. Hold on, I got it right here. Yep, 32.8% from 3. 32.8% from 3. And he's shooting 44% from the field. That's not enough to be a stretch. So what Nurkic was doing was basically
kick me off for 2 seconds, bud.
All right. So basically what Nurkic was doing was he was backing down and playing what you and I would be in a 2-3 zone in the middle and daring Giddey to shoot. And that's going to be the bigger problem. That's going to be the problem with this team, in that if you are not a guy that gets to the rim, or you are not a guy that can spot up from 3, the question is whether you actually have a place in the NBA today, or a defensive stopper. So I don't know anybody in the NBA that doesn't do one of those 3 things. So you get to the rim, right? You really get to the rim. So Russell Westbrook get to the rim. Athleticism ad nauseum. You are a drop shooter, which let's put DiVincenzo in that. Anybody that shoots over 35, 40% from three. So let's say 40% from three, right? So you're a marksman for better or worse. Or you're Dort, right? Dort on the Thunder, all he does is lock down the guy. So that's his job. Any offense that is positive on top of that is a bonus. And so you can have one of those guys in the lineup. You can play 5-on-4 and drop off of Dort. Dort has become a legitimate three-point shooter, which is great. I think he shoots, I'm going to look this up right now. I think he shoots close to 35 or 40% from three. He's shooting 40% for three. So he's your defensive stopper. He's the guy that you sag off. He's the guy that you put in the corner and you say, beat me, right? Bobby Portis style, beat me. You can't have two of those guys if they're not shooting 40%. So he's not shooting 40%, and they're daring the Thunder to beat them with him. So what the Thunder did at the trade deadline was get Gordon Hayward, and hopefully Gordon Hayward is the guy that I think you're going to see a lot more of Gordon Hayward. I think you're going to see a lot more of somebody other than Josh Giddey. And when Giddey's up for that extension, which will be at the end of this year, I don't see Josh Giddey having a place on this Thunder team long term. Seth, I was saying that there are three types of players in the NBA that are successful right now. Number one, you are a drop-dead shooter. You're a marksman. Number two, you can get yourself to the rim at any time that you want. Let's say Russell Westbrook, right? Russell Westbrook's not a great shooter, but he can get to the rim whenever he wants, which is why Judah Mintz from Syracuse will have a place in the NBA at some point because he can always get to the rim. And then and Seth's back. Bye, Seth. It was nice seeing you again. So, all right. So we're not going to replay that again. All right. So moving on, we talked about the West a little bit today. Let's go on to we got about 20 minutes left, and Seth's going to come back on. But there are a number of cuts that have happened in the NFL this week. Like I said before, the Bills cut Tre'Davious White. They cut Jordan Poyer. They cut Mitch Morse. They released Deontay Hardy and Sarah Neal, and also released Nyheim Hines. $25 million on their cap has come off. You have the Patriots who have like $100 million on the cap room, $100 million. The question is at this point, where do these quarterbacks all fall? So to me, you have your Kirk Cousins, you have your Baker Mayfield, you have your Justin Fields, you have your Russell Wilson, right? You got your four guys. I guess you could put Jimmy Garoppolo in there, but I wouldn't put him in there. So you got your four guys. Seth, you have the Patriots job, you have the Falcons job, you have the Vikings job, you have the Broncos job, the Raiders job. You have five, and I'll even put the Commanders job because I read Adam Schefter yesterday. I think it was Adam Schefter, or it was somebody on The Athletic that said, the Commanders may look at Kirk Cousins. And I saw that too. I was like, wow. I don't think that was. I saw that too. I was like, wow. Like, I like the coming home because that allows you to trade that pick if you want. So where do these guys land? Like, I'm interested in. So you got four guys. You got 5 spots, right? You got numerous draft picks that could all go to one of a litany of different places. First, I guess the question is, 1, 2, 3 are all quarterbacks in the draft as of today?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, my next question is, do you agree? There have been questions as to whether the draft should take place. Sorry, whether free agency should take place after the draft, not before the draft, or the draft should be moved up so that way free agency could take place after the draft, and players could. So you would know whether you got Drake May, you would know whether you got Jaden Daniels, and then you could deal with the players. Now, I cannot at all believe that the Players Association wants that, not in a million years,
No.
because that will cut out several jobs, right? Because rookies will take players' jobs. But my question is here, if you have Drake in some way, shape, or form, the Patriots, the Commanders, and the Bears all taking quarterbacks, where do my four guys land?
Okay. So I'm assuming sorry, I missed part of it. You're saying Fields, Cousins, Mayfield. Who's the
Fields, Cousins, Mayfield, Russell Wilson.
Okay. So Cousins, it looks like Cousins, it seems to me, is going to go to a place where you can win pretty quickly. I'm assuming, I don't know, I like Fields in Atlanta, but they don't seem to be interested. I'm assuming Cousins ends up in Atlanta.
Okay, so now you have Minnesota open.
Minnesota is open. I can see a Baker Mayfield going there. I can see Baker Mayfield staying in Tampa. I assume that's actually what's going to happen.
Okay.
I do. Wilson in Minnesota? Yeah. I think Minnesota's got a problem. Because if you can't sign Cousins, Chicago's not trading you Fields.
Nope.
And unless you're going to take, are you going to trade up? Are you going to take a JJ McCarthy? Is that going to get the job done for you? I know everyone is now loving JJ McCarthy as he seems to be making his way up the draft board.
Well, here's my next question. If Minnesota doesn't take McCarthy, right? And I'm not saying McCarthy makes it into the top 10. He may not. But 11, 12, 13, Minnesota, Denver, Las Vegas. All need a quarterback. He
doesn't make it past that group.
All need a long-term quarterback, not just a quarterback, right? A long-term quarterback. So, and you've heard Vegas say, Antonio Pierce say, I don't want a stopgap anymore. I want a guy. Now, whether he gets what he wants, he's the coach. He's not the GM. All right, so if he doesn't go, let's say, to Minnesota with 11, does he go to Denver?
Yes.
Remember, Denver has no picks after that.
I think Denver. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if Denver trades up to try and get him.
Using what? They don't have anything.
Yeah, you're not going that far. I mean,
where do you have to go? Do you have to go to the Chargers at 5?
I don't think so. I don't think the Giants are taking McCarthy at 6. I would be furious if they took McCarthy at 6.
Would you be furious if the Giants traded up to 3?
I would prefer them not to. Simply because
obviously it depends on what you have to give, right? Because
I'm assuming they're giving up the first and the 3 seconds to do it.
It's a lot.
I think that's too much.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, I remember when the Jets traded up for Mark Sanchez, and I didn't like the trade to begin with. And then I heard what they gave up, and I was like, okay. I was like,
but when the Jets traded up to get Darnold,
they gave up 2 seconds to move up for Darnold from 12 to 3. I think it was 12 to 3. They gave up 2 seconds.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, that's not bad at all. I don't know what. Look, if they're going to give up their first, obviously a second and like a fourth.
Yep.
I'm okay with it. But to me, you have 3 needs, desperate needs: receiver, offensive lineman, corner. You have 2 second-round picks and a first-round pick. The first-round pick should be an offensive lineman or a wideout. I'm not going to make the call at this point whether or Peters or Okwuzie. There's no cornerback at that point. If you want to go for Penix in the second round, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I happen to really like him, but I don't want them jumping up to take McCarthy.
I'm sorry. It was 2 second-round picks in that year and then a second-round pick the year after.
From 12 to 3?
They went from 6 to 3.
That's what I thought. I thought they went from 6 to 3.
6 to 3, so they gave up 2 seconds that year and a second the next year.
That's too much.
It's a lot.
It is.
So that's exactly your trade, right? To
I don't love it.
New England.
I don't. I mean,
okay.
But the question is,
if JJ doesn't make it past 11, then Minnesota gets JJ, right? I mean, if the draft stays,
yeah.
If it goes Trump,
I would think so, unless they re-sign Cousins.
So
the problem is they're also losing Danielle Hunter, and they can probably get the best defensive lineman in the draft.
Yep.
At 11, because there's no defense in the top 10 picks. Nobody. So you can go, what do you call it? The guy from UCLA, you can go verse from Florida State.
No, I think you're taking the guy from Texas A&M, Dallas something or another from Texas A&M.
I don't even know who that is.
Hold on. Anyway, okay.
Do you think Russell Wilson ends up with a starting job next year?
So the only starting jobs that I see him potentially winding up with are the Raiders.
I could see that. But again, that's not a long-term solution if that's what he's looking for.
But again, if you are Antonio Pierce and you want a long-term solution, you could sign Russell Wilson with pick 1 and take Bo Nix in the second or third round and hope that is your long-term solution. You don't have to have your long-term solution start. Let's remember, up until like 7 or 8 years ago, maybe it's a decade at this point, first-round picks didn't start.
I know.
They waited, right? I mean, Steve McNair was like the prototypical, we're going to wait.
Patrick Mahomes didn't start.
They waited, right? Now, I understand with the rookie salary cap, it makes sense to play them a lot more, right? Because if you sat as a very, very, very expensive player, you had the ability to mute the stats that you had. But Chris Chandler started for 2 years before Steve McNair came along.
Yes, he did.
Right? Aaron Rodgers sat for 3 years. Did it. Jordan Love sat for 3 years while Aaron Rodgers did it. I'm not against. I get that this is all about win now. We need to win today. But are any of those 3 teams winning anyway? I mean, the Bears have the best shot, right? Because the Bears are basically supplementing what they already have. They have a pretty good team. Not a great team, but it's also an awful division. So they have a chance of actually winning other than Detroit. I think they're better than Minnesota. I think if they get Caleb Williams, they're probably better than Green Bay. I get it. Especially since Green Bay is probably going to lose Aaron Jones this year too. But that being aside, if you're J.J. McCarthy, are you starting year 1? I mean, if you're playing in Minnesota, are you starting year 1? I think you have to, right? There's nobody else there.
So.
All right.
I mean, unless you're, as you said, you're going to take a Wilson, play him for a year or 2 and transition. But I don't think that's what Wilson wants. As you said, I think he wants the Raiders makes sense. And he can play with Devontae.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, even though I would not be surprised if Jacobs ends up back in Las Vegas.
I was thinking about this the other day. Russell Wilson would be perfect for the Raiders because that's what the Raiders have always been. The Raiders have always been the reclamation project of all time, right? Yes. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, where do reclamation projects go? Oh, they go to the Raiders, right? I mean, you even go back to your guy, Justin Tuck, right? I'm going to go reclaim my throne. And Richard Seymour, I'm going to go be the bad guy and reclaim my throne. So I think Russell Wilson probably winds up with the Raiders. look, I heard for fantasy purposes, I hope Kirk Cousins winds up with the Falcons. I think that would be phenomenal. I think that will open up a lot. Baker, I think.
Does that make them the favorite? Does that make them the favorite in your mind in that division?
In the South? Yeah. I think that any competent quarterback play makes them the favorite in the South. If they got Baker, they'd be favorites in the South.
You think Baker resigns in Tampa?
Yes. I think that was done the minute Mike Evans signed. I think that was a package deal.
3-year, $100 million, something along those lines.
Yeah. 3 years, maybe $30 million apiece, $90 million. I think he'll probably get 50 guaranteed. Like he's going to be there for 2 years.
Yeah, you figure he's there for 2 years to build to see what he can do.
Yep. I think JJ McCarthy does wind up in Minnesota, and I don't know where I look. Justin Fields in Pittsburgh sounds good, but really, does he? I mean,
it doesn't feel like a Pittsburgh player.
He doesn't feel like any player. That's the problem. He feels like a Vegas player. He does. Yeah. He feels like a Vegas player.
Right? I could see him in Vegas. I could see him in Atlanta. But I don't think Atlanta's particularly interested in him.
Yeah. All right. So we got about 10 minutes to go. And I definitely don't want to gloss over this at any point. And last week we talked about Peter King's retirement. And I know both of us sent an email to Peter King. And
neither of ours got printed.
No, I did look. And I read them all this week.
They were better than mine. I don't have a grudge on it.
But look, retirement is one thing, and Peter King will do something else. Mm-hmm. The media world, and I would say kind of the football world, lost an icon this week in Chris Mortensen. Like I gotta tell you, I understood that he had throat cancer. I understood that when he came back, he quite frankly looked like a shell of himself.
He looked old.
Yeah. He looked very old, right? He was always on TV, then he disappeared, and then he came back. But Peter King talks about Will McDonough as the guy, right? The guy that started it for him. For us, it was Chris Mortensen. It was Chris Mortensen and Peter Gammons. Those were the guys. Those were the guys that gave us the insight. Those were the guys that we tuned in to Sunday Countdown or to Baseball Tonight to hear. Those are the guys we read all the time. If there was a Mortensen column, I read it. If there was a Gammons column on The Athletic, I read it. I may not be interested at all in what he's writing about. I mean,
but he's such a great writer to read.
I'm not a Red Sox fan. I'm not an Orioles fan, which is generally what he writes about because he was in Boston for a very long time and in DC for a very long time. But I read it because of the nature, and much like Chris Mortensen, nobody has ever said a bad word about Peter Gammons. I think Mortensen took a hit with the Deflategate. I really do. I think his PR took a hit. I think his credibility took a hit. But just like Peter King, in my mind, the true nature of a person is being able to admit when they're wrong. And he took that too. And the ability to admit that you're wrong and the ability to admit, hey, look, this is the information I had. It was wrong. That's okay. Nobody's perfect. He was definitely not perfect. But from all accounts, he was a decent guy. And in a world of I came from that world of sports journalism that's why I went to Syracuse. I wouldn't want to be in that world. That world, I left because it was too cutthroat for me. And if you can come out of that world with everybody saying you're a decent guy, you've made the world a better place. And he really did. So his loss is pretty big. At least to me, it's very big. Okay, we got 5 minutes left. Seth, after you.
Well, that was pretty much where I was going to go with my 5 minutes.
Well, continue on. You
No, I think you kind of covered it pretty well. I don't really have too much. That was where I was going. I don't really have too much else. So you can cut. Do you want to run anything? You want to talk about the hockey free?
Look, hockey trade deadline is in 2 days. There have been a boatload of trades today and tomorrow. I'm pretty happy with what the Islanders are doing. They've won 4 in a row. They've beaten some really good teams, including the Bruins and the Blues last night. I got to be thankful because my Knicks are sucking. My Syracuse has no chance of the tournament after losing to Joe Girard last night. And
wait, they lost to Joe Girard? Where is Joe Girard?
He's at Clemson now for the last year. This is the point. You have no clue, right? Yeah.
He's older than I am.
He went to a grad assistantship at Clemson. Yeah, look, in the next couple of weeks, we'll have our NCAA preview for the tournament, and we'll make our selections there. But truth be told, I have really no clue who's going anywhere. And all I know is Marquette lost one of their best players. Maybe he'll be back. Maybe he won't.
Point guard.
Yeah,
I don't know who. It was my sport, and I find it unwatchable at this point.
Yep. And Duke just signed a 7-2 guy.
Yeah, from France, I think.
And by the way, there's another bowl coming from Sudan. He's 7'2". Surprise, surprise.
Oh, I thought you meant another college football bowl.
No, that's it. Well, they're about the same. All right. For Seth Kamens, I'm Sean Palmer. We'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good one, everybody.